Launched in the year 2000, the Ultimate Universe represents a seminal moment in the history of Marvel Comics. The brainchild of then Executive Vice President Bill Jemas and Editor-in-Chief Joe Quesada, this new take on Marvel's classic characters was first brought to life by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley in the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man, which was then followed by Mark Millar's double hitter of Ultimate X-Men and The Ultimates. In part 1 of this video series, we discuss the origins and the early years of this series, and the incredible levels of success that it saw, reaching its crescendo in the form of Millar's 2002 miniseries, The Ultimates. In this video, however, we're going to explore what happened after this point, and how the Ultimate imprint fell from such heights, and the various factors which led to its decline in sales and eventual demise. With the commercial success of The Ultimates in the summer of 2002, Marvel were feeling fairly confident about their new franchise. So far, they had experienced nothing but great success with Ultimate Spider-Man, X-Men and now The Ultimates, and showed little signs of slowing down. Ultimate Fantastic Four was released in early 2004, co-written by the two architects of the universe, Mark Millar and Brian Michael Bendis. But as great as this may sound, it wasn't without its problems. You see, while Bendis and Millar are both incredibly talented writers, they're also incredibly unique and different writers, which had become apparent when comparing their contributions to the Ultimate Universe so far. While Bendis sought to polish and reimagine old archetypes with a fairly timeless feel, Millar often sought to critique them through the lens of contemporary politics and social affairs. This dynamic was described by Bendis himself, who stated that, "I'm writing about hope and he's writing about nihilism, and I know he doesn't always think he is, but he is constantly." And as a result of this, the pair's collaboration in Ultimate Fantastic Four proved to be somewhat challenging, not aided by the geographical differences they faced, by Millar living in Glasgow, Scotland, and Bendis in Portland, Oregon. And as a result of these factors, it was decided that Millar would write an outline for a story, with Bendis then turning it into a full script, with Adam Kubert later providing artwork. And while this mashup of styles and ideology could have served as a burden on the series, Ultimate Fantastic Four actually didn't seem to be affected, and instead maintained the success of its predecessors. As became custom in the Ultimate Universe, the series drastically reimagined Marvel's first family, straying heavily from the origin story established by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Now, the Fantastic Four were a team of early 20s scientists who gained their extraordinary abilities after travelling to the Negative Zone as part of a government think tank based out of the Baxter Building. And with the positive reception to Ultimate Fantastic Four, Marvel had proved that this imprint was one built to last, and even despite the notable differences between the creators in terms of tone, was able to maintain a sense of cohesion and a standard of quality. And with all of its core characters now established, it appeared that very little could stop the Ultimate Universe's success. That is, except for Marvel Comics itself. Even though the Ultimate books continued to sell and Marvel Comics had re-emerged from their financial troubles of the late 1990s rejuvenated, there was still a sense of disarray behind the scenes. In early 2004, Executive Vice President Bill Jemas had left Marvel entirely, following the failure of the company's epic imprint relaunch and several notable fallouts with Avi Arad and Ike Perlmutter. As the man who had proposed the initial idea for the Ultimate Universe, Jemas' departure represents the end of the golden age for this series. Coincidentally, also around this time, the much anticipated sequel to Mark Millar and Brian Hitch's The Ultimates was met with heavy delays, which resulted in the series' 13 issues being released between February 2005 and May 2007, which frustrated both the readers and the executives at Marvel alike. And although Ultimates 2 was still regarded a success, it didn't quite match the levels of praise that its predecessor had reached, and Marvel editorial, as a result, were wary of letting this series fall into a slump. To combat this, Jeff Loeb, writer of The Long Halloween and Daredevil Yellow, was hired to replace Millar as the writer for the Ultimate series, and was also hired to work on the universe's first major crossover event. Loeb came into the series as an incredibly well-respected and credible writer, but would find his contributions to be not only his most polarising work, but a major turning point in the fortunes of the entire Ultimate franchise. Loeb's first offering within the universe was Ultimates 3, a 5-issue miniseries released in December 2007, and the problems with this book are very much apparent from the beginning. In short, the plot involves Hank Pym's creation of the villainous Ultron bot, who leaks a sex tape of Iron Man and Black Widow, serving as a distraction for an attack which kills the Scarlet Witch, leading to a confrontation between the Ultimates and Magneto. Quicksilver is also killed by Hawkeye, and in the end it's revealed that the events of the book were all orchestrated by Doctor Doom. Oh, and it's heavily implied that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are very close siblings, to say the least. You see, while Mark Millar's Ultimate series definitely had a penchant for edgy and testosterone-fueled storytelling, in the vein of making a statement about the current political climate, Loeb maintained the former while faltering on the latter. And while it's true that social commentary isn't entirely indicative of a book's quality, it does at least offer something tangible to merit, whereas Ultimates 3 often just felt like violence and excess for the sake of violence and excess. And while the book did sell fairly well, with the first issue selling a little over 130,000 copies, reviewers generally panned the title. IGN best described it in their review, stating that behind the theatrics and swagger, there's just nothing to draw me in. There are the characters that I used to enjoy in name only, hollow shells of what they used to be. But despite his critics, Loeb soldiered on with his work, using the end of Ultimates 3 to set the stage for what would become the Ultimate Universe's most polarising event, aptly named Ultimatum. Ultimatum picks up right after Ultimates 3. With both his children dead, Magneto declares war on the world, unleashing a tsunami across New York City, which kills as many as 34 different renowned Marvel characters, including but not limited to Thor, Professor X, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, Cyclops, most of the X-Men, oh, and the Wasp. If it sounds like I'm skipping over the book's plot, it's because that's basically it. The title's sole purpose was essentially to remove a good chunk of the Ultimate Universe's roster. While Loeb asserted that Ultimatum would conclude the first chapter of the Ultimate Universe, David Finch, the book's artist, puts it a little more bluntly, recalling the mandate given to him by Marvel Editorial being as straightforward as to kill everyone in the Ultimate Universe. And honestly, it's understandable as to why so many cite this book as the real death of the Ultimate Universe, as not only did a huge amount of popular characters die, but this stunt also alienated a large portion of its readership. The book received overwhelmingly critical reviews and saw record low sales for the entire Ultimate series, resulting in a steep decline for the entire imprint that they would never actually recover from. Much of the fondness that readers had felt towards the Ultimate Universe had died alongside their beloved heroes, and despite the best efforts of Bendis, Millar, and other talented writers such as Warren Ellis, Nick Spencer, and Jonathan Hickman, no amount of shock therapy could revive the series and regain the success that it had achieved in years prior. In an attempt to distance themselves from the bloodshed of Ultimatum, the entire series was rebranded as Ultimate Comics and aimed to offer a slight refresh for the series. This relaunch was spearheaded by Ultimate Comics Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli, Ultimate Comics X-Men by Nick Spencer and Paco Medina, and Ultimate Comics The Ultimates by Jonathan Hickman and Asad Ribic, the three titles which had served as the pillars from the Ultimate Universe in its inception, and now seemed obliged to keep their world from crashing down around them. Even despite the loss of so many popular characters during Ultimatum, the writers of these new titles tried to make it work, using it as an opportunity to push new and underutilised characters into the spotlight. For instance, Ultimate Comics X-Men explored the place of the X-Men in a world without Charles Xavier and Magneto, instead focusing on characters such as Jimmy Hudson, the son of Wolverine, and handing leadership duties over to Kitty Pryde and Iceman. Ultimate Comics The Ultimates saw Hickman turn one of the universe's most beloved heroes bad, using the tragedy of Ultimatum to contort Reed Richards into the maniacal villain The Maker. But possibly the biggest change to the status quo was unfolding in the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man. Around the same time as Marvel began their Ultimate Comics relaunch, Brian Michael Bendis' run on Ultimate Spider-Man was nearing 150 issues, with the series firmly established as not only one of the greatest in recent memory, but the crown jewel of the entire universe. Bendis had served as the sole writer for the series in its entire decade-long run, and remained committed to the title even after the events of Ultimatum, so much so that he felt a major change was required in order to maintain the book's long-standing quality. As a result, he boldly declared that issue 160 was to be the finale to his decade-long story, and would go out with a huge bang. He would kill Peter Parker. While the notion of killing off another established character may not have seemed as impactful at this point, Bendis and artist Mark Bagley struck true to the mantra which had proved so successful throughout the past decade. They wanted to create a timeless and iconic Spider-Man moment, one built off genuine emotion and not shock value. And in the events of Ultimate Spider-Man 160, they did just that. Their send-off to Peter Parker became one of the most heart-wrenching and iconic moments in modern comics, as the young hero has one final battle against his arch-enemy, the Green Goblin, before succumbing to his wounds in the arms of Aunt May, with his last words being, "It's okay, I did it. I couldn't save Uncle Ben, but I saved you." And with that, the character we first saw the Ultimate Universe through the eyes of was gone, and the decade-long adventure that we'd been treated to had reached a natural conclusion. Or had it? You see, prior to the inception of Ultimate Spider-Man 160, Bendis had been contemplating the notion of introducing a new protagonist to the series, one more diverse than Peter Parker, with the idea dating as far back as the election of President Obama in 2008. In Bendis' mind, the entire point of the Ultimate Universe was to reimagine classic superheroes in a modern context, and as Abraham Reisman points out in an article for Vulture, if a middle-class teenager was growing up deep in Queens in 1962, sure, he'd be white. But in the New York of 2011's profoundly multi-ethnic outer boroughs, statistically he'd almost certainly be a person of colour. And with Peter now laid to rest, Bendis and artist Sarah Pichelli put this idea to the test, and in the pages of Ultimate Fallout number 4 from October 2011, Miles Morales took centre stage as the universe's new Spider-Man. And while the idea of continuing Spider-Man's story without Peter Parker was risky, it proved to be a worthwhile risk to take. Miles quickly became one of the universe's most beloved characters and brought more readers back to the universe than any other title. Despite the world around him still firmly in ruins, Miles served as a beacon of light, the last hope in an all-but-dead universe, and becoming a true fan favourite and fully embraced as the heir apparent to the Spider-Man title. However, despite this strong glimmer of hope, Miles' success alone was not enough to save the Ultimate Universe, with each passing year feeling like one more stepping stone to a slow and painful demise. In 2013, the crossover series Cataclysm, The Ultimate's Last Stand took place, in which Galactus from Earth 616, the main Marvel universe, found his way into the Ultimate Universe and sought to devour it. Many expected this to be what the title said, the last stand of the Ultimate Universe, also fueled by the fact that the pair of creators behind this series were the very people who constructed this universe from the beginning, Ultimate Spider-Man co-creators Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. Alas, Cataclysm wasn't the end for the series, and the Ultimate imprint lasted for another 2 years, seemingly destroyed by the events of Jonathan Hickman's Avengers Time Runs Out and Secret Wars series, where the Ultimate Earth collided with the main Marvel Comics Earth, destroying both and creating Battleworld. And even in the aftermath of the Secret Wars event, it appeared that only a single Prime Earth remained, with the more beloved elements of the Ultimate series folded into this singular continuity. And with that, the universe appeared to be finally left to rest. In 2017, Bendis left Marvel Comics to join DC, with his goodbye to his most celebrated creations being the 5-issue miniseries Spider-Man 2, a sequel to a 2012 miniseries which saw Miles meet the Earth 616 Peter Parker for the first time, which revealed in its closing pages that the Ultimate Universe may still exist after all, revealing a new team of Ultimates led by the original Spider-Man Peter Parker, now still alive, and Ironheart Riri Williams. The rise and fall of the Ultimate Marvel Universe is a cautionary tale for the comic book industry. Throughout this two-part series, one of the main problems that has repeatedly come up is the overall lack of stylistic focus and cohesion between the series' various titles and creators. While Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man, for example, didn't try too hard to differentiate itself from the more classic depictions of the characters, many of the other titles fell into this trap of seeking to be too different from the main Marvel universe, resulting in an abundance of ill-fitting characterizations and shock-centric storytelling. And even though Ultimatum demonstrates this problem the best, I'd argue that it seemed to have existed ever since Bendis and Millar took to writing their respective series, but only started to feel like a problem once sales began to decline, because, like all sports fans know, you don't complain about a tactic when you're still winning, even if you start to notice its limitations and flaws. But this does beg the question, what is the legacy left behind by the Ultimate Marvel series, and how should fans and readers remember it today? Despite its untimely end, you could argue that this series laid the groundwork for a large amount of Marvel's success in more recent years, with the universe essentially serving as a testing ground for new exciting ideas, the best of which were later cherry-picked into both Marvel's main continuity and their newly launched big screen venture, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This, though, served as a double-edged sword for the series. As Bendis noted, the things that made the Ultimate Universe so special were applied into the regular Marvel universe, therefore making the Ultimate Universe less special. As many of these new ideas were retrofitted and popularised in other mediums, the Ultimate Universe began to appear less unique. In fact, you could make the argument that by way of this, the best ideas and stories within the Ultimate Marvel Universe ultimately made their own books obsolete. And in that sense, maybe this series was never going to last, and it's astounding that it continued to take risks and explore new ideas for almost 15 years, as a testing ground for the bright future of Marvel Comics and Marvel as a standard bearer for the entire superhero genre. And as long as these new ideas are preserved and maintained, then even though the comics themselves may have disappeared, the motifs and themes of the Ultimate Marvel Universe will continue to live on for decades. Hey everyone, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like down below and leave a comment as well. Let me know what you thought about everything we discussed in the video. What do you think the real reason was for the Ultimate Universe's decline, and who or what do you find responsible? I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe to the channel if you're new here and share the video around. It helps us out tremendously. You can find some more videos like the one you're watching if you enjoyed it on screen, and you can also find a written version of the video on my website, owenlikescomics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, just at owenlikescomics, and that's all for me. I will see you all next time. So until then, take care and keep reading.